So what are some things that you've learned going from, I guess, more of an inside sales position to where you're having to do sales so that you help other people do sales and like build out a process that can be plug and play with, or I'm sure it's plug and play like only to a certain degree, but plug and play with all these different organizations?
So the question is, what have I learned going from lead manager to sales director?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So really, is that what you're asking?
Now sales coach.
Yeah, to now coach.
Sales coach, yeah.
It's a big trajectory.
So number one, I was never a salesperson. I never wrote business. I went from setting appointments to working on the process of the organization as kind of an interim, like a assistant to the director of sales at the time at the company that I was working with. I've never closed business. I've never gone out and acquired property, and I don't think that you have to. I was analytical. I was when people show you their strengths, believe them. When they show up naturally, let them. And I think that I was thankful and blessed enough to have had somebody inside of my organization see my skill set and say we can 100% use that on our team and allow me to jump steps. I think people think you go from this to this to this to this. And it doesn't have to be that way just because that's what people say. I know 100% that there's no doubt that he probably got a lot of flack. Like, she doesn't even, and that was probably, and I know for sure inside of my head, one of my biggest limiting beliefs was like, my team will never think that I'm credible. My sales staff will never think that I'm credible because she hasn't closed business. But what I did was I studied. I went and I learned. And I learned, what are people doing, what's working, what's not working. I was listening to podcasts, I was reading books, I was listening to the gurus. I was doing all the things to help my team and to support my team. And what I realized was, like, this process and the core concepts of this process are so fundamental. And when you understand the fundamentals of anything, you can up-level people. And people can up-level themselves. When you teach them the fundamentals, these sales guys, they've already got the sales acumen. They've already got a lot of them have the confidence. They needed a systematic way to get consistent. You know what I mean? And that's what I was able to help my team figure out, was the systematic way to drive consistent results for themselves and to not get frustrated and burn out. I was able to analyze what was happening, who was doing more of the right things, and then replicating those right things across the business and process. So I'm a process person. I'm not a closer. Yeah. You know, like whatever. And I really teach, like, the, with the communication tools, I think that sales is shifting. And it has shifted from what you saw back in the day to, like, those car sales, the always be closing mindset. Mm-hmm. I teach a different ABCs in my program. I don't think that when you focus on the close, you show up in communication the way you should, with intentionality, with transparency, with vulnerability, because you're only focused on the result. And so if you're only focused, think about that. If you're only focused on the result with your spouse, what happens? Like, they're like, you're not listening. You're only worried about yourself. You're only trying to get what you want. Right? When we show up focused on a predetermined outcome, we show up different. So we rewrite the ABCs and we rework those concepts, and we teach you a different way of thinking in the program that focuses on the 1 + 1. Because 1 + 1, what will it always equal? 2. So it's mastery of the process, not mastery of the results.
The entire time you were talking, I felt like I can really relate, because I've always taken the perspective of putting the seller first, putting the person who needs to get from point A to point B first, and figuring out what are their actual needs and where do I fit in this picture, or do I fit in this picture? And coming from a heart of, or a servant leader mindset, I'm here to always put you first, and I'm always going to communicate with you and try to put you in a better place than where you are right now. And that's my whole heart, my whole intention. I let people know that. And it's like, that's not what people envision a closer doing.
Right. But you'll see that, like, those always, and it's so funny because when I tell these salespeople, like, the close doesn't matter, that, like, their CEOs are like, what? Like, how dare you? Of course the close matters. And I'm like, let me finish, you know? Like, give me just a second. Let me land this plane. Let's land this plane together. Like, if you build it, they will come, right? Field of Dreams. Like, if your objections are happening after you are pitching your offer and giving a number, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, those closers, guess what they're able to do? They're able to pitch their number, and then they're able to objection handle because they're just confident in their abilities and they're not willing to budge, right? They're shameless, right? And they're in their ability to just keep going. It's that grind set mindset, right? Call it a grind set. So they just grind it out and they just do it, and it's gritty and it's it's raw. And they're willing to go through that process. But I think that there are more sales reps in the world out there now who they've not had success with that, so they're trying something different. And for me, in my analytical process brain, I was like, if I can help them overcome these objections, these are the objections, how do we address those before our number? If we can address these things before, our offer makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always tell my salespeople, you can't make a duck a dog.
I thought you can't make a cat a dog.
I mean, you can.
It just depends on the day.
Whatever the animal is. You can't make a horse a dog. I don't know. I just say duck.
Depends on the day.
You can't make a horse a horse. I just did it. You can't make a duck a dog. It's something that I've always said. Like, a duck is a duck is a duck. A dog is a dog is a dog. Like, you can't make someone your seller who isn't your seller. Like, you only can ask them questions. You can only uncover what they want, what they need, and how you can support them. And what I learned that was so, for me, like in my journey, that was just so transformational, like that light bulb moment that I have, was like, I have a core fundamental understanding of the sales process in relation to a seller. Like, I learned that. I have a core fundamental understanding. Why the hell am I not using this sales process in my marriage? Why the hell am I not using this sales process as a sales manager with my sales people? This is a proven process. So when I figured out that this wasn't just for talking to sellers, when I figured out this worked with my husband, this worked with my friends, this worked with my kid, this works with my sales reps. Like, when I figured that out, it's really when, like, I started catching fire. Like Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah.
Hunger Games. I can't whistle.